Welcome to the Generational Awakening YouTube channel. Our aim is to encourage, equip, and empower Christian leaders and parents to effectively nurture the next generation, become resilient, lifelong disciples of Jesus. Today, we welcome our special guest, Sue Price. Having graduated as an economist, Sue worked in the air transport industry until taking time out to raise her two daughters. Volunteering to lead the children's work in her own church eventually led to a full-time post heading up the children's ministry department at Kingsway, now Kingsway Trust, responsible for publishing books, kids' music, and teaching resources, and providing training events, including the annual Hand-in-Hand conference for children's and family ministry workers. Now approaching retirement, she works part-time, with her main focus being the conference. Hi, Sue. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today, especially during an intensive lead up to next month's conference.
Thank you for having me, Harry.
Well, it's a great pleasure. And I've enjoyed several of the conferences in the past and encouraged many other colleagues and ministry partners from different parts of Europe to attend. So, well, can you begin by telling us more about the conference, the vision, and what you seek to do?
Well, the conference, which has been running, this will be its 25th year, takes place in Eastbourne, which is on the south coast of England, over a weekend in February. It's aimed at anybody who works with children or families in a Christian context, whether in a church setting or reaching out in the community, whether they're paid workers, whether they're volunteers. The conference runs from Friday afternoon to Sunday lunchtime, with a range of optional seminars and 4 times to come together to worship, pray, and hear key thoughts. There's plenty of time over the weekend to visit the exhibition, the conference shop, to have conversations with other delegates. And we really aim to make the time an opportunity for refreshment for workers, as well as a time to learn new things or to hear new ideas. And the exhibition at the conference really reflects the collaboration that we have with many organisations, ministries, theological colleges, all of whom are engaged with children's ministry and who helped stage the conference.
Well, it's wonderful. And also very challenging, the fact that you do a conference like this and other events every single year. So how do you go about putting together a program each year?
Well, I'm part of a group called Children Matter, which is several individuals who work across the range of children's ministries and have been advocating the importance of children's ministry to the church in general for many, many years. So I'm talking to them on a regular basis. I will also ask collaborating organisations what they're seeing as the current trends, the key issues that are being raised at any particular time. But the latest project that Children Matter has been developing is the concept of FaithFull Generation, which is built on some work that was initiated in Australia. The idea is that children that are growing in faith are most likely to remain committed to church in adulthood, which is something that we're really keen to promote, will have experienced at least some of the following: a thriving intergenerational church, a family where faith is being nurtured and maybe journeyed together, not necessarily parents who have come to faith before their children, maybe with or later. The opportunity for children to connect with the big story of the Bible and also to personally connect with Jesus. Being intentionally discipled by the church family and mentors, but being able to live out their faith in peer groups. Having the chance of peak experiences as celebrating key moments in their life and their spiritual journey, and being given the opportunity to participate in church life and mission and respond with compassion. And those aspects of FaithFull Generation have been very important in shaping the last few conference programs, and particularly this year.
Well, what happened to the conference during the COVID period, the pandemic?
Well, we had our 2020 conference in February, and we're wondering about whether we needed to give hand sanitizer to people. That was the place where everybody was at. But within a couple of weeks of the conference, everything went into lockdown. Children Matter, as we talked through, we decided to put on some Zoom seminars on aspects of children's ministry during the pandemic. And they were really appreciated, especially because many of the children's workers felt very isolated and under-supported by their churches. Churches were putting on Zoom services and then expecting their children's workers to do something with the children, but nobody quite knew what that something should be. Should it be online? You know, a lot of leaders started just dropping off craft kits and ideas on the doorstep of families' homes, things like that. So we ran a series of those through the second part of 2020. And then as we went into 2021, we realized that we had an opportunity that lockdown was giving us, because many of the key thinkers and practitioners, if we try to bring them together face to face to talk about some of the issues, they just don't have the time, the space in their calendar. But they could make an hour and a half on Zoom. So we took the key elements of FaithFull Generation and set up a program of think tanks to look at them in some depth. And so throughout the second part of 2021 through to now, we're just finishing, a series of think tanks, which then led into us putting on forums on 9 of the key aspects of FaithFull Generation, so that the forums could reach a wider audience. So that's really shaped what we're going to be doing at this conference.
Wonderful. Well, you know, you've been pioneering many new areas and some of those hybrid opportunities that you mentioned. So, you know, we need to be applying some of those opportunities to our wider context in Europe and other countries. Well, what have you programmed, for this year, for 2023?
I mean, just to go back to some of those, a book called FaithFull Generation was written some years ago now, which set out those principles, and I believe has been taken into some European languages, although I'm not certain, can't be sure.
Yes, it's certainly in Russian. Dave was just mentioning that a few days ago.
And I think that really does help set a framework, really, for people to be thinking about in their own context. There's nothing within the concept of FaithFull Generation that is specific to any one place, denomination, anything like that. It really is a series of thoughts that helps churches, countries, ministries begin to develop what would be right in their own setting, I think. So this year, our conference is in a week or so, from the 3rd to the 5th of February, again in Eastbourne. And we've been aware of people's hesitancy post-COVID, whether they want to come together again. A lot of people are saying they do want to come together again, but there seems to be a hesitancy to commit, a hesitancy for churches to commit budgets as much as people committing time as well. And so we're putting on a full timetable of covering the full weekend, but we have scaled back the selection of seminars, recognizing that we probably are needing to build again from a smaller base as people start to come together. But the programme has been built around the key issues that have been identified during the Lifting the Lid think tanks. Intergenerational community has become a particularly big one of those. There are examples from some churches which we will be featuring where, by force of circumstance, they were pushed into an intergenerational style of worship in their church setting, and are really sort of pioneering some new ideas and concepts in that area. So that's a particularly big area that we will be looking at over the weekend. And as a result of some of those key things which have been identified during the think tanks, Dave Gidney, who's part of Children Matter, but also a theological college lecturer, he's taken all of the recordings and input and mind maps that were created from the think tanks and the forums and created some downloadable resource. So each of the areas and aspects of FaithFull Generation now have a comprehensive document of thoughts. It's not a nicely rounded booklet with conclusions, but putting together all of the discussions, all of the think tank content, and with links to the videos of the forum speakers. And we're making that available as well. So that will run alongside the content in the forum, really, for people to take away, and will be made available to anybody who wants to purchase the downloads of those Lifting the Lid think tank and forums. So that's really what we're focusing on in 2023, to try and get that all of that combined thought of those key people who we were, God put into a place where we could actually access them by locking them down for a few months, really taking advantage of that.
Right, well, certainly those are links that we can include. Whatever are available now, we can include that in the text below the video. Well, as we conclude, Sue, what final call to action do you have for our viewers?
Well, of course, we'd love to see you all hand in hand. If not this year, then maybe at some point in the future. But particularly if you're involved in training or in resource provision or in thinking about policy for children's ministry in your church or in a group of churches, I'd really invite you to invest in those Lifting the Lid documents as a starting point for maybe some fresh thinking for your own ministry.
Thank you, Sue, for being with us and for the great training and resources that you and your team provide for pastors, for parents, for practitioners. And below, our viewers will find links to the websites and resources that you've mentioned, and along with contact details if you want to find out more. So if you find value in what we have shared today, I invite you to like this video and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be informed of each new video released. And let us know in the comments below what you have found most helpful or encouraging, and any questions you may have for myself or for Sue. Then share the link with friends and churches who would also be helped and inspired. And together, let's impact many more lives for good across all the generations. So thank you again for joining us today. Be blessed, and let's keep multiplying the blessing to others. Bye for now.